Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of Parkitect here on the channel. So in Parkitect we are going to be doing the campaign mode right here, and the reason why I'm not doing this in Planet Coaster is to one, get a different type of game in here, a different type of building, a bunch of different stuff, which we are starting over the course of this summer. We're going to do a bunch of different stuff, and in the last episode of Planet Coaster, the Golden Gulch first episode actually, I talk a lot more about what is to come over the summer and what is going to be new throughout the summer. So if you want to see what else is new, make sure to hop over there and check that out. But Parkitect is basically the same thing as Planet Coaster. It's an amusement park builder, and you can build roller coasters. The one main difference that I see, or there's actually a couple, is that you build on a grid the whole time, and you also have a backstage that you must connect. It's not an optional thing, so you have to decorate it so people can't see it. Otherwise, your people will get sad and kind of disgusted. And then if you don't have it, then your shops can't get their food and stuff. And so that is why Campaign and Parkitect for me is better than Planet Coaster. So we're going to be doing that, and this series will be for the people that like to see the management side of amusement parks, for those reasons, of course. And then our Planet Coaster series is for more just building crazy and awesome things. So let's go into our Parkitect here, or campaign, I should say. And you start out with this these two maps on this humongous map as a whole that you really can't see because it's all clouded off, and it's huge. It goes on forever, but we just start with these two. So this first one is the tutorial, which is Loopy Lagoon, and it's actually mostly built. It just tells you the main things right here. It actually loads really fast too, but the tutorial will tell you camera controls, the building controls, the first how to build your rides, finances, shops, behind the scenes, building coasters, and then you have your quit button when you're done. But the controls for this are a bit different. Usually in Planet Coaster I hold E and Q to turn, but if I tap it, it does that. I have to click Alt to do it smoothly. So it is a little bit different. I have to get a little bit into changing my controls. Well, not changing them, but learning them. But it's mainly a already pre-built park. There's a bunch of things. I think this is part of it, but we're not going to be focusing our time on the tutorial today. We're going to be doing the first scenario, which is called Meadows, as you can probably tell from the title of this video. And it says as the description, a large clearing on the frontiers of a maple forest, the perfect place to build your first park from the ground up. Easygoing guests, relaxed weather, what more could you ask for? And so the scenario goals are to have at least 200 guests in your park, and then your optional is to finish it by December of year one. So let's start and go into it, and you can see the map right here. So it just gives you the same description right here, and then you have your map. So this we're gonna have to hide so people can't see it, and this is the entrance to the park. I assume that it shows us our rides here. So we have a carousel, teacups, Ferris wheel, and a spiral slide, and then our thrill rides are Gravitron, Twister, and Wipeout. And then we start with two coasters here. We have a mini coaster and a spinning coaster, and that spinning coaster I'm definitely going to use probably over in this area right here. But what we're going to do for the layout of these videos, we're going to have an intro like this for every single scenario, and then we're going to go into a time-lapse build, and then for the bigger scenarios, we'll have a mid-course break where we just see how it's running, and then another time-lapse, and then a ending kind of assessment of the park as a whole. And then for the smaller ones, we might have just one time-lapse section. Just depends on how long it takes to build it. So without further ado, let's get into this time-lapse. Okay, so let me first just say that this episode has turned out way longer than I initially intended it to. At the time of the mid course, it's about as long as a Planet Coaster video. I haven't recorded the next part after that, so you guys can see how it's gonna be running. But it is super long, and I guess it makes sense because we are making a full park in this. I didn't think it was gonna be that hard to make a park that's gonna have 200 guests in it, though. I guess I was wrong, and I underestimated the amount of time that it takes to build things in Parkitect to make them look good and nice. I guess that also comes with experience, though. When I get better at this game and we get into harder scenarios, I guess I would be able to do quicker builds because I'll be better at the game. Then again, this is my first ever speed build in Parkitect, so hopefully you guys are liking this so far. But a little bit of what we're doing right now, we are working on a food court, and we have covered up our little backstage pathway for the workers, and we just kind of put some topiary. We'll work on that a little bit later. But right now we are working on this food court, and if you haven't seen, it is a castle theme. I don't know. It kind of seemed like a good theme to go with. I went with it because on the way off the map, there's actually a castle outpost thing, and I don't know if that has to do with anything with the scenario or the trophy or anything. Because I believe we are going to get a trophy after we complete this, but I decided just to keep that theme going, and so we're gonna do a bunch of beginning stuff with a castle theme, and then as we move on, it's gonna get into a more forest. But we're gonna end this part of the time lapse with a going transition building, which is gonna be a ride. But I'll talk more about that. And yes, I said we are gonna have a mid course in this episode. I did say before in the intro that I wasn't thinking we were gonna have one. Um, I said that we were gonna have it for the longer episodes, and longer parks, but it just seemed like a great spot to have a mid course, so I just decided to put one. We are about halfway done by the time we get there, so that is nice as well. And here we are starting with our coaster. I went with the spinning coaster, as I said in the initial intro. So this lift I was trying to figure out. I initially thought I had more room to build back here, and another problem that I had with building a coaster is I really can't tell how tall it's supposed to be and how tall it is. All it gives you is like a number marker. So like this, I think is about 8, or it's about 6 right now, I believe. But I don't know how tall a regular normal coaster should be in this game. So I kind of just kind of went based off of what I thought was a good height. So it's not really all that great. And so we went with a turning up lift hill, and then we kind of just went with a bunch of spirals. It took a couple times of trial and error to get this fully worked out how I wanted it, and I actually have to go back and do most of this over because I have to lift the station up a little bit. But I think I cut that out because it took a long time. But you'll see the reason for that later on when we are gonna finish the coaster off. But right now we're making the track, and then after that we are gonna make our little castle that I said that the coaster was gonna be located in. So this castle is gonna be an open castle. It's just kind of a wall just to give immersion to the people walking in the pathing. So it's just kind of keeping the castle theme alive, and then in the it kind of keeps the castle from the outpost as well. So then they're going to be connected, and next to it there's going to be a merry-go-round, but that's getting way ahead of ourselves since that is going to be after we put in the walls. But here he is. This is the first draft of our layout. In the middle of the layout, or not in the middle of the layout, but when we go to move this, it is going to change a little bit, mainly just the ending though, and then the beginning of the lift. But here we are, we're going to go back. As I said, we're going to dress up this walkway here, and I found these castle walls, or fences, I guess that's what they're called, and then I'm hooking up the backstage here. But a lot of that is just going to get dressed up. And this backstage is actually pretty easy to use if once you get the hang of it. But I just didn't really know at the beginning, so it took me a while to actually figure out how to connect everything. But I got it eventually. It took a while. So that is the final of the food court, and we're gonna start on our castle walls. So this is pretty easy. I just made a box, and with one side I actually made a pillar with, just to kind of give it the more vibe of a thing. Not castle. Wow. And then we are making this merry-go-round, and it has more of a castle garden type feel to it. I didn't want it to be all too much castle, too much gray. And that's actually why I decided to transition the park into more of a forest. And so another thing that'll change with the spinning coaster is the queue. Some of it's actually going to get placed inside of the castle. But as you can see right here, we're putting in a bunch of topiary, just kind of dressing up the area. I need more rides. I think that is the biggest problem, not getting 200 guests. I need more rides. And I don't have any thrill rides in yet by the end. So it's all just going to be little rides. And wow, we're about 10 minutes in. So we have about 7 minutes left of this time lapse. So really, all of it's a lot of scenery, a couple rides going, but we just gotta dress it all up. The castle theme will be coming back near the end, though, as the path will wrap around the back, and you all be able to see that near the end of this time lapse and in the mid course. And so I'll let you guys see the park running. And then you guys can also ride the coaster. Well, it's not really a POV; it's more of just a side oh my gosh, I can't speak it. It's looking at the coaster while it goes through, and you can see it like in its full action. So there is the coaster, and then I tried to put some windows in here, and this is where a lot of it gets a little bit changed. So after this cut in a few seconds, you're gonna see that a bunch of stuff has changed with the coaster. But right here, we're just connecting the two buildings, making it all one. And then right here, I wanted to put some flooring in so you couldn't see the grass. And then the cut just happened, so you can see that the station got raised, and now I'm trying to connect the pathing to it. And so eventually I just made some of the path inside and then some of the path outside. And so then a bunch of other things had to happen, like fencing to make sure people don't run into that coaster while they're in the queue. So that is pretty much it with the coaster. So after this, we're going to actually move on. Once we connect all this path, of course, and finish the building off, since there's a bunch of holes in it now. So after this, we're actually going to put in a Ferris wheel. And the Ferris wheel, I didn't really do much with. I just put a queue, which is actually too short, so I changed that after the time lapse before. I'm going to change that before we go into our mid-course area. But a lot of these rides I actually didn't change the color for either. I think I should probably change the merry-go-round and the Ferris wheel, since they're like bright blues and all the merry-go-round is like red. So I think that's probably suitable. Oh, and another ride that we're gonna put in is gonna be a slide. I don't know. I think it's more of like a carnival ride, but I guess we can't really. I don't really know what it's called. I think you just see it kind of at a playground. But it's what I had to work with. I do have a research team researching thrill rides, so that is what's going in. And this is, I thought about putting one of the thrill rides there, but I decided to just keep it kind of kiddie-ish, I guess. So we just go with a kiddie swing. Oh, there it is, right there, the slide, and we go in and we put that. And so then we are going to put in the cues for it, and the cue will actually be addressed in a couple of minutes when we go into another part of the time lapse. And then we're also going to put in our Ferris wheel, and wow, we just keep bouncing around, so it's like not all one thing at a time. I don't know why, it's just kind of easier to do that. But we have to cover up the backstage area, otherwise the guests will be sad and mad. So we are gonna do that in the next area right here, and then we're also gonna put one more ride in this time lapse. And I can't believe I've been talking for so long right now. It's really surprising me actually. But there's a jump, so we're gonna try and do some terraforming, which I couldn't figure out for the life of me. I apparently there's a switch that says mode. You might have saw it, but it actually makes the terrain. Oh. It actually makes the terrain. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. It makes the terrain slanted instead of chunked up. So we did that, and then we did a bunch of trees and a bunch of other stuff just to dress the area up. And something I've noticed when doing the planting is that some plants will actually delete the like a tree that's in its place. So I kind of find that a little bit annoying because then you have to go back and place more plants. But there is our final ride for this time lapse, which is the teacups ride, and there it is extending the Ferris wheel ride, not ride, queue. And actually, I'm gonna take up those two flower area just to give it a little bit of extra queue since it seems to be the most popular ride. But you guys can see that when the park is running. But here we are. I figured that since the teacups is a low to the ground ride, why not put it indoors? So that's what we're doing here. And when you see this building, it's a brown roof with some gray pillars. So I kind of figured it would be a good building to kind of transition into more of a wooden forest vibe instead of the castle. So we are doing this, and we're actually going to extend this building over our slide queue just to give people cover from rain. As you probably saw a couple minutes ago, the rain was actually coming down pretty hard. And the reason why you have to have the covers on some rides and on queues is because when there's covers on a ride can keep going since they won't get wet. And then if there's lightning, it still can keep going unless it's like super bad. And then people can also stand under there so they don't get wet. And I think it increases your guest happiness. But we are about 1 minute away from our mid-course. And I guess we're just gonna dress up the rest of the area, putting in a bunch of what do you call them? Benches and bins and lights. And I will see you guys in a second where we can address what is happening with the guests and what is going to happen with the rest of the park. Actually, something I might want to say though is with the mid-course break runs, or not mid-course break runs, mid-course breaks. I think we're gonna have to do with some of the bigger scenarios. We might have to break them into parts, so that'll be quite interesting. But that's gonna be in a very long time. This is just the first one, so we're gonna finish this off in one episode. Hopefully, it's around 30 minutes. I don't know, but we are just finishing off that area, getting rid of the backstage area so you can't see it, and we're kind of transition into that new type of theme but the same type of theme. That's gonna be cool, but I'll see you guys in 1 second with the regular time lapse. I mean the regular portion, mid-course portion. That's what we're calling it, mid-course. All right, everyone, welcome to the mid-course break, I guess you would call it. Oh, and look, our research team just finished what they made. I don't know how to tell what they got though. What did they make? Help, maybe? I don't know. I'll check that in a minute. But as you can tell, it is a running park. We have 110 people. So we're about halfway there to our goal. And I've changed the color of the Ferris wheel and our slide and our merry-go-round to be like a yellow-orange. And yeah, what I was talking about earlier is this little castle over here. And so I kind of just tied that in to our theme, and so then we come over here and we're kind of going into more of a forest now. So I guess the plan from now is to come out this way and wrap back around the back side of the castle, and we're gonna have maybe like a intense flat ride here, or maybe like some shops or something. And then I want to put like a kid coaster, like kind of like a dragon coaster, coming out this way, with some intense rides. So we're about a little over halfway there. So the people keep coming in. It's just I don't want to keep running the park for a while because I think it will eventually get to 200 people. But that's kind of a long ways to go. Everything seems to be running all right. We're making money. I believe we're making money. Um, so our overall we are going up in money until we start building something, and then we'll go down in money again. So here is the spinning oh, okay. Here's the spinning coaster. We got 2 trains on it. So here is a little POV, I guess, a little POV. So people get in. It is a spinning coaster. I don't know why the grass comes through here, though. That is like my one concern. So we're going up the lift hill, and you can probably see out of the castle from the very top of it. But I think it's actually a pretty laid-back coaster. It doesn't have that big of a queue, though, which is kind of sad. It doesn't spin that much either. But here we go. We're just kind of going around. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Wild Mouse coaster from the Boardwalk Park. That was a long time ago, though. Alright, so that's about it. It's really short, sweet, and simple. Then we got our teacups ride almost fully covered, and then all of the rest of this. So what did we get from this? I want to know. You know what? We can just go in here. They made a thrill ride, right? I think we got the jumper. That is new. Alright, so that's a great, great. Alright, so why don't we head back into a time lapse, and we're gonna finish the park off right over in this area with some thrill rides and one more coaster. Okay, so we are in the second time lapse, and this is going to be the last one for this episode, but it is way shorter than the first one. We got the majority of the park and the buildings done in the first part. Now we just gotta kind of round it off with some more intense rides and finish up the back area. So there's not going to be that much building. It's going to be more of just finishing things, I guess. But we put in 2 flat rides straight off the bat. They're 2 intense ones. Got a scrambler and a hurler, I believe it is. But we put in the queues. This is all gonna be pretty much in its last stage. There's gonna be a cover for the scrambler ride, and then nothing for the hurler ride. And then we're going to go back and do some more bordering. But then moving on to the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to create a little food court, just kind of like a shack. It's going to have a food stall, or I mean a restroom stall, a pretzel thing, and a drink stand. And so this kind of just satisfies the need of the back area. And so here we are just critiquing everything, and I had to put a depot in here just so that things could get to the actual stores. While and I actually had a bit of trouble putting this in, so I actually had to put it in the actual pillar column for the castle, and that was not fun. I had to figure out how to do it. The path wasn't connecting right, so I had to do that. And now we're just kind of finishing off this area, putting in some walls and some roofs, and then the food court's practically done. And I will show you guys where that depot actually went, because I didn't actually show it in the time lapse. But here we're putting in our 3rd flat ride, which is the Gravitron, and that is one of the intense rides. And then we're gonna finally move on to our 2nd coaster, which is the children's coaster. And it might seem like I'm kind of rushing through this. It's because I don't really have a lot of time to explain what's happening, since it's not really a long amount of time lapse. So we're gonna go up. It's gonna be a bunch of curves. Not too complicated of a ride, but it's not a generic type of children's coaster either. So we go with that, and it actually has a good amount of cars on it. It's only 1 train though. Come to find out that there's no braking on the actual track, so it goes straight into the station, which is a little bit weirder than normal coasters, but it's what I had to work with, so we figured that out. And then we finished this, and if you look at the amount of money I have, it's running out a lot. Way faster than I originally intended it to, and I wasn't really subconscious about this, so I let it run out, and I almost went bankrupt in this scenario. I had to draw a loan, which I'm really disappointed in myself about doing, but I had to do it. just so I could fit in the one more flat ride that we were doing. But in doing so, running out of money, I actually hit the goal, and you guys will see what happens with that in a couple of seconds. But my goal for the scenarios are to hit the goal in the ending portion, so you guys can be there live with it. But I wasn't able to do that, and I guess some of them I won't be able to do that with, but some of them I will be able to do that with. It's just my fault, and if I would have had it the park running instead of being on pause mode, I wouldn't have ran it out of money in the first place. So that's just all my fault. And hopefully in the next scenario, I will be able to fix that. But we're just doing the station right here, and it took me a while to actually figure out how I wanted it to be laid out. I knew I wanted it to come over the entrance and exit and then down the station. I just didn't know how I wanted it to do that, and I finally figured it out. So here is where I couldn't place the flat ride, so I kind of just went into putting in some bushes until I ran out of money completely, and then I had to speed up the game, which I actually cut out here in 1 second, and then we're going to get confetti right here, because when I was trying to recuperate money, I hit the goal, which is sad, and that is the thing that happens when you hit your goal. You get confetti, and I will show you the end result in just a second after you guys can see the confetti, which you just did. So let's go to a live ending portion right now. Okay, so we are live in the regular or the completed park of Maple Meadows, the campaign mode. So we have already talked about the beginning half, which the carousel is actually way more popular than I thought it was going to be. But we are going to mainly focus on the back half, since we already talked about the front half in the mid-course. So I didn't actually color the rides orange. I just kind of forgot about it. I was already kind of mad about screwing up the money situation, so I kind of just went straight into this. But we have our junior coaster, which we'll ride in a second. Here, let me pause that so it's ready. We have our hurler here, which is not very popular. Oh, the music's coming back, never mind. We have our wipeout, which costs us our little confetti that I wanted to show you guys, and our money, which is actually a pretty popular ride, and our Gravitron, which is pretty popular as well. And then here is our little snack area, and if I go and I get rid of our decoration, or not decoration, scenery, hide scenery, this is where the depot is, and it's in the little column, or pillar, I should say, but that is where it was placed. It just kind of fit there, and so I actually had to put in these little triangles here. But if you can tell, if you look at the money, I actually have $4,000, and we're actually going up in amount of money. I just had to draw a loan for this, so I could actually finish off the little forest that we were ending off with. And then we are actually at 256 people, which is well over the goal. So I'm really sad that I wasn't able to show you guys the end result, but at least, I mean, not the end result, but the confetti, but at least you guys will be able to see the trophy, or I think you get a trophy after the campaign mode. We'll check that in a second once we ride this mini coaster. So the lift hill is kind of slow. We just kind of go up. That's actually way slower than I thought it was. That's okay. The people don't seem to be having much happiness, though. Or they don't seem to be very happy on the lift hill. It's a pretty nice ride, though, I would say. It's kind of chill for the whole family, especially the younger kids. But you go around this small helix here, and you come back around, and then you get some pops of airtime, and then you kind of just do like a zigzag area. It's not that big and crazy of a coaster. It's short and sweet and kind of simple, just like the not Wild Mouse, but the first spinning coaster that we did. But this is the park as a whole, so why don't we go back to our main campaign area and see if we get anything, and see what our next scenario is. Okay, so we just loaded it in, and this is the trophy that we get for completing Maple Meadows, and we can also play this map in Sandbox now, so that's pretty cool. But I suspected that this trophy was going to be a castle themed, not because I've seen videos on this Maple Meadows, of course, but I actually kind of figured that it was off to the side. It might be the actual trophy, and so I also based the park off of this for that reason. But we got our little gold palette now, and now we're moving on to our second scenario, which is Chanute Airfield. And so the clouds cleared off so we can actually get to it. And so the goals are have at least 250 guests in the park, and then the optionals are 400 park tickets sold, and finish it by year 2. So it's a little bit of a step up from the Maple Meadows, but we can definitely do it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this first Parkitect campaign videos. Hit the like button if you want to see more of it, and I will keep them coming if you guys like it enough. Well, I plan to do it anyway, hopefully every Tuesday. But until then, I hope to see you guys soon. Peace.